Hey guys, welcome to episode 2 of Bunny Talks. This is basically an author interview, and this week I'm very honored to bring you an interview that I had with author Bryony Pearce. She is the author of Weight of Souls, which will be coming out in August. She writes YA kind of urban fantasy type books. Let me read you the synopsis off of Weight of Souls. Taylor O has inherited a terrible family curse. It is her fate to help the ghosts of murder victims on their journey to the afterlife. She must pass the mark of the dead back to the murderer, or the darkness will come for her instead. When Justin Hargraves, one of the most popular boys at school, but Taylor's worst enemy, is killed, her life gets a whole lot trickier. Justin doesn't even believe he's dead, so Taylor has to solve the mystery before she can lay him to rest. This leads her to the terrifying V Society and the game of truth or dare that went so wrong. And it says, Terry, author of Slated, Quoted, Wonderfully Vivid Writing. So this is Weight of Souls by Bryony Pearce. And I'd like to welcome Bryony to the channel. Hi, Bryony. Welcome to my channel. Thanks for agreeing to do this interview with me.
Hi Bunny, thanks so much for having me on your blog. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I really wasn't familiar with your work before you guys sent me this book for review. What was your first book that you wrote? Like, how did you get the idea? And tell us a little bit about it.
That was back in 2004. I had just left London and decided to try this writing thing, see if I could make anything of it. And I was really interested at the time in, I guess, feminism, I suppose. I was very inspired by Anne McCaffrey and the way she wrote her characters, and I had this idea for a book aimed at sort of younger girls about a teenage girl who wants to do a man's job, if you like. It's set in the future, sort of a post-apocalyptic America, which has become very patriarchal, and there are certain things that girls aren't allowed to do, and when a plague hits her community, she ends up having to do this particular job that she's not allowed to do, become a windrunner, and she sort of saves her community. And I really wanted it to inspire young girls to feel like they could do anything, really. And that particular book won me an agent, but it didn't get a publisher. In fact, I've recently rewritten it. I think it still has a place. I've aimed at slightly older girls, and well, I'm hoping that a publisher may pick it up one day. But yes, that was my very first book. The first book that actually got published was Angel's Fury, which was 2011.
So what genre do you usually write, and do you see yourself like ever writing other genres? Like, do you see yourself taking a step forward and maybe writing horror or something like that?
Well, the book that I've just been talking to you about, Windrunner's Daughter, that was sort of middle grade, and that's not really what I've ended up writing. What I've ended up writing as young adult, what's been successful for me, is quite dark, paranormal thrillers. So Angel's Fury, which as I said came out in 2011 with Egmont, that was actually a book about reincarnation and fallen angels. Themes that I tend to deal with are good and evil, redemption, sort of monster within man, how good people can do bad things, that kind of thing. And that book had Nazis and KKK and the development of serial killers and all sorts of fun stuff. And the book The Weight of Souls, the new book that's coming out in August, that has ghosts, and it has a zombified army of 10,000 killers and bullying, and it deals with quite dark. It has a murder mystery, it's quite dark. Again, it deals with good and evil, and it deals with redemption and forgiveness, and you know, the bad things that we do to each other, especially I guess as teenagers when we're trying to fit in. And work out where we're going with our lives. So yeah, that's The Weight of Souls. As far as genre is concerned, would I write anything else? I did in fact sort of try. The next book that I'm writing is called Wave Function, and it's about a teenage boy this time who finds that he can jump between universes. It's based on multi-universe theory, and Homer's Odyssey. He gets lost and has to try and find his way back home. And that got very, very, very dark very quickly. Dark even for me. And I got a bit worried. I thought maybe I should have this character have some happiness in his life. So I decided to dedicate 3 chapters to Cain having some good luck. And I sat down to write these 3 chapters, and I knew what I wanted to happen. He was going to sort of get the girl for a bit, and there was going to be fluffy bunnies and whatever. And I started trying to write this particular part of the book, and I got completely stuck. I had writer's block, and I never get writer's block, and I could not write these chapters. I just couldn't do it. And eventually, after about 6 months, and I really persevered here, after about 6 months, I decided to have something horrible happen to Cain, and the ideas started flowing again, and I started writing. So obviously I just am completely incapable of writing anything light and happy. I did I am a big fan of light, happy literature. Terry Pratchett is one of my big authors that I love, and like I say, Anne McCaffrey, some of her stuff is so open-hearted, and I just simply myself obviously on the dark side and can't write like that. I'd love to be able to, but the genre that I will be sticking to is dark YA, I guess.
It has to be so exciting finally getting published. What was your journey to getting published like? Was there a lot of rejections, or how long did it take for you to get your first book out on the market?
So, getting published is amazing. I wanted to be a writer for as long as I can remember. In fact, the first book that I ever remember, the first story idea that I ever remember having, I was about 7 years old, and it was about a 50p piece that wanted to be a pirate. I've always wanted to write. That one probably wouldn't have been a bestseller. So to be able to actually say I am a writer, to have my books on shelves, that's been a lifelong dream. And in 2009, I got my first book deal, having been writing, really trying since 2004. Sort of 5 years it took me, and I remember being in the car. I was driving with my husband and my little daughter and my son, who at the time was about 2 months old, and he, it turns out, really didn't like driving in the car, and he was screaming his head off in the back seat. And I got this phone call from my agent saying that I had a book deal, and I just started screaming in the front seat, and Andy nearly crashed the car. I was just screaming. It was brilliant. So it's amazing. Being published is amazing because I get to see my name on shelves next to amazing authors. I get to go on school visits and meet teenagers who are reading or may read my work. I've won 2 book awards for Angel's Fury. I won the Cheshire Schools Book Award recently and the Leeds Book Award last year. It's a really hard thing in a way to open yourself up to that much criticism being published, so it's amazing to win an award. So yeah, being published is a wonderful thing for me, I guess for any writer, but a little bit of an emotional roller coaster because every single person who reads the book is going to be judging you in a way that's quite scary. So yes, there we go, that's what getting published is like.
So tell us a little bit about Weight of Souls, since that's coming out in August. What's the book about, and where did you get your ideas for it?
The Weight of Souls, let me tell you about my new book. That comes out on the 1st of August in the UK and the 6th, I believe, in the US. It is about a teenage girl who suffers from this horrendous family curse. She actually sees dead people. She sees ghosts, but not just any sort of ghost. The ghosts that she sees are murder victims. And if a murder victim touches her, it transfers a mark onto her skin, a black mark, and that black mark begins to call something called the darkness. And what she has to do is she has to find the killer and transfer that black mark onto their skin, and so the darkness can come and take them away to the Egyptian god Anubis for judgment. And something horrible happens to them. She doesn't know that. That's not her problem. She just has to find these killers and mark them. and that's her life. She spends it avoiding ghosts. She has a hard time at school. She obviously doesn't have an awful lot of time to be doing her homework and her revision, so she isn't doing great at lessons. She gets quite badly bullied, which is a little weird. She has one friend, Hannah, and she's very worried about losing her because she doesn't feel she can tell her what's really going on in her life. Her father doesn't believe that what she has is a curse. He believes it's sort of hallucinations. Her mother had the same thing, and he believes that Taylor has the same sort of hallucinations because her mother's kind of fed her this family curse story, and he is trying to cure her of these hallucinations that she has. And so she has a pretty hard time of it. Things get worse when Justin, the guy that's been bullying her at school, actually gets murdered, and he turns up as a ghost, puts that mark on her skin, and she has to find out who killed him. Problem is, it's not that straightforward. Justin has no idea who killed him. He thinks it was an accident. So she has then a murder mystery to solve, and along the way she kind of falls in love with Justin. Obviously the dead and the living are not meant to have a love affair, so that's is it doomed, is it not? I guess you'll have to read the book to find out. So yeah, it's a sort of a murder mystery, dark paranormal thriller, and yeah, it's really good fun. What inspired me to do it? What are the big themes in it? Well, really, I was quite badly bullied as a teenager, and a lot of the experiences that Taylor has are kind of drawn from kind of things that happened to me, and I really reached down into myself and used those experiences to write Taylor and the things that she has to cope with. I kind of wanted to deal with bullying without kind of making it a book about bullying. I'm hoping that people will read it and be able to identify, and maybe hope that this idea of how hard it is to fit in, how hard it is to become the person that you're meant to be when you're young, and when there's all this pressure around you, maybe that people can identify with it a little bit and maybe feel a little bit better about stuff that's happening to them. So yeah, that's kind of why I wrote The Weight of Souls.
I know during the editing process, a lot of stuff, publishers and editors make you remove a lot of stuff from the original submissions. Was there anything in Weight of Souls that got cut out that you wish could have stayed in?
The editing process for The Weight of Souls was great, actually. My first book, Angel's Fury, had a long editing process. I got the contract in 2009. It didn't get published till 2011, so it was nearly 2 years of backwards and forwards with an editor, and she was a brilliant editor. It was my debut novel. I really had a lot to learn, and she spent a lot of time getting that book right, and there were a lot of big edits to do. By the time I'd got round to Weight of Souls, I'd learned an awful lot. So in fact, when it got to my editor at the publishing house, it didn't need an awful lot of work, certainly not as much as Angel's Fury had. So that meant that actually there's nothing massive taken out of it by the editor, no really big changes that I didn't like. It was comparatively fairly light edits. I mean, I had the edits in February, and it's being published in August. I mean, that's a really tight timescale compared to Angel's Fury, and yeah, I'm really pleased with it. I mean, every edit makes the book better. These editors are really clever people. They know what they're talking about. So really, I'm very happy with the editing process and how it's all turned out for both of my books.
So what are you working on now? Like, what's the next step in your career?
As I said, I've written this book called Wave Function. That's finished in first draft form, and I'm waiting for edits to come back on it, which hopefully will make it even better. I have Windrunner's Daughter, which I've already mentioned, that I am rewriting, or have rewritten in fact, and I'm hoping will go out to my publisher soon, and hopefully she'll like it enough to bring it to life. I am in the process of writing another novel at the moment. I'm a couple of chapters in. It's a teen superhero novel. So as you can tell, I'm pretty much sticking to teenagers, maybe moving away from the supernatural a little bit into different areas, science, superhero fiction, but basically it's all going to be similarly dark and deal with similar themes, good and evil, what man does to man. And yes, I hope that you enjoy The Weight of Souls. I really do. And I hope that maybe you might look out for some more stuff from me in the future.
Hey, before we close, you want to take a few minutes and kind of let our viewers know where all they can find you on the internet? Like, what's your Twitter, Facebook, website? Where can we look you up online?
Thanks so much, Bunny, for having me on. If anyone would like to carry on this conversation with me, if you're not sick of my ramblings completely already, please do come and join me on Twitter, where you can find me as @Bryony Pearce. That's BRYONYPEARCE, @Bryony Pearce on Twitter. Or take a look at my website. It has sample chapters on, book trailers, that kind of thing. That's www.bryonypearce.co.uk. Pretty straightforward. Or you can come and find me on Facebook as Bryony Pearce Author. So yeah, do come along and say hi. Thank you. Bye.
I guess that's it. Thank you so much for doing this interview. So big thanks to Bryony Pearce for doing the interview on the channel. And again, make sure you check out Weight of Souls. It's going to come out in August. Thanks for watching, you guys. See ya.